Hello and welcome to Game Plan Africa. My name is Charles. I am one of your hosts. Today we'll be looking at the 2025 NFL Draft. A number of African players were drafted, and we'll also be asking the big question: could there be a time where Africa would adopt the draft system in sports, as it's been done here in the United States, in order to change the ways we discover and distribute talents across the clubs, various clubs in Africa? So stay back, relax, and let's talk about it. So when I started this episode, I asked the question: could there be a time where Africa could adopt the draft system like they do in the United States? So the draft system essentially was created to create parity across the board when it comes to talent in the different sports leagues. So let's say, for instance, we stay with the NFL because they just had their draft. So the way it works is, and this is me explaining it to people that don't know about the draft system back in the continent, right, who are not familiar with it. So the way it works is teams across the league, it would go from the worst team to the best team during the last season. So the worst team will select first, and they will go for the best prospect in college, right? Whichever the college system also has their league as well. So they will go through and do their scouting. Whoever they think is the best prospect and would fit into their system, they will select that person first, and they will go down the line to the in the NFL we have 32 teams. So 32, the first round will be, we'll go through 32 teams. So like this year, the Tennessee Titans were adjudged the worst team in the NFL, so they selected first. And then the best team obviously was the Philadelphia Eagles because they won the Super Bowl. So they selected last in the first round, right? There will be other rounds. So that's how it works essentially. You can also read up more on, it will take me a whole day to go into the dynamics of the draft, because there are things that happen during the draft. Teams might decide to trade up or trade down. Essentially, they go into the deal with a team that's selecting before them and say, we'll give you this and that, we'll give you a number of draft picks in the future, or we'll give you a player that we have right now, so that we'll jump up and we'll jump you and select before you, or there are other things that go into that. Again, in the future we would discuss the draft system, free agency, all of that. Now the question I'd ask, right, like, it just happened. The NFL just did it. And Tennessee Titans selected first. You had the Jaguars, like I said about trading up. They traded up and selected second. The New York Football Giants selected third, and it went down all the way to the 32nd team in the first round, and then second round started. Will there be a time where the sports leagues across Africa would want to do something similar? Would it make sense? Would it help with parity? Would it help with fairness? So that it won't be top heavy per se when it comes to having talent in these select teams. Is this something you think Africa can adopt? Not just Africa as a whole, but say select countries in Africa, the ones with the bigger leagues. So say South Africa, for instance, right, with rugby, soccer, or cricket, right? Do they have good say the professional league? Do they have leagues in their colleges, universities, where they can now do a draft ceremony and select players from their college leagues and now translate them to the professional? One of my favorite things about the draft is when a player's name, when the commissioner walks up to the stage and calls the player's name, and the camera pans to that player, and you see him and his family hugging, crying, happy. That I always derive joy from that, especially when it has to do with African players. You see them, in our traditional attire, and mommy smiling, daddy, stoic, sometimes smiling and crying or crying. That brings me joy, and that happened a number of times during this 2025 NFL draft. It started with Amand Membu, that was selected 7th overall by the New York Jets, and down the line, over the number of selections that were made by teams. It's a good thing. It's especially when what I keep saying about the sport growing in the continent of Africa and what the future holds. A number of things that the NFL does, and discovering these players, the ones that are based there on the continent, through the International Player Pathway Program. We also have the NFL Africa camps that I know they do. It's in Nigeria, Ghana, and some other countries in Africa. Teams are beginning to see that the talents that they seek, not just you don't just look for them here. They are there in Africa as well. I know a player of Egyptian origin, I think, was also drafted this year. It's something that's not done a lot. It gives credence to what I keep saying about the sport growing on the continent. We're going to, next week, I'm going to have a guest, and we're going to talk more about how the sport is being is growing in Africa, and also talk about the various players that were drafted in this draft, and more into, again, we'll look at the safety of the sport and the popularity, and also the business aspect of it. How American football, or the NFL, is the most popular league in America. It's so popular that I saw somewhere where it was being compared to the Super Bowl was being compared to the World Cup final, which is a big thing. Anytime that you as a league is being compared to World Cup, the World Cup, you are big now for you to be being in the same conversation with the World Cup. So how does that now translate to Africa? How do we tap into that? How do we tap into the popularity, the money that the NFL is making? This is Game Plan Africa. We're going to talk about money and how Africa can make money off of these sports, right? So how do we grow? What do we think that the NFL should do more when it comes to growing the sport in Africa? So tune in next week. We'll be talking more about that.